All right, welcome to the first of its kind, world-changing manufacturers network. Lisa Ryan has her ears to the ground and her heart in the game. Get ongoing education and new connections right here with Lisa and the Manufacturers Network. Buckle your seat, listen, and spread the word. Here's Lisa.
Hey, it's Lisa Ryan. Welcome to the Manufacturers Network podcast. Excited to introduce our guest today, Dave MacDonald. Dave is the owner of Better Together Group, the parent company of 3 unique staffing agencies. He is well-versed in talking about the hiring market, particularly for truck drivers and blue-collar workers. In addition, Dave is passionate about the 3 practices of hiring by integrity, intensity, and intentionality, the 3 I's. So, Dave, welcome to the show.
Hey, Lisa, thanks so much for having me.
So share with us a little bit about your background and what led you to doing what you do.
Sure, I appreciate that. Yeah, for me, I really struggled to keep a job when I was in my 20s. I started my family early. My wife and I got married at like 20 years old. I wasn't legal to drink yet, but I was able to get married and really had no idea how I was going to provide for that up-and-coming family. Within a few years, we had twin boys, and then a few years later, my daughter was born. But during that first kind of 10 years of marriage, I had 8 different jobs with the longest tenure of 18 months and with the shortest tenure of, let's not talk about it. It wasn't very long. And so for me, I bounced around a lot and still had to make rent and buy groceries and do all the things that young people are struggling to do. And I ended up doing some work as a temp and really getting the opportunity to provide for my family, either in between jobs or in addition to my main gig as a temp. And so that's one of the ways that I came to the industry, was needing the industry and then later wanting to go back to it to help other people the way the industry helped me.
Okay. So then at Better Together, you talk about your WTF philosophy, which cracks me up anyway, but it's
Right.
not what you think it is. It's work hard, tell the truth, and finish the job. So how does this philosophy influence your approach to hiring, especially in the context of manufacturing or those blue collar roles?
Yeah, so we're really trying to redeem the WTF. And so if we could take it out of what its pop culture meaning is and get it to work hard, tell the truth, finish the job, I would love that. But that's what our WTF is all about, is helping people understand the value of working hard, being honest and telling the truth, and then finishing the job. And so those things were really important to me and were honestly the principles I was trying to build into my kids when they were young. And I was starting the business at the same time my kids were young. So it was natural for me to use those same principles in hiring people and in talking to new workers to help them build a personal ethic around how they go to work. And so for me, work hard is really bringing your fullness, the entirety of what you have to work every day. And particularly in today's culture, we have a lot of people that I'm going to work to rule is one of the phrases that people use, where they give what they have to give, but they don't give any more and just enough to get by. And I fundamentally believe that there is no integrity in that mindset around work. When you show up for work, you do what you can for the people that are paying you. And so whatever you have, some days I don't have as much. Like the other night, my wife and I were at the hospital through the night. And so I came into work on a few hours of sleep. And I didn't have as much to give that day. And my staff was really understanding and respectful of that. And I try to do the same with them. So around work hard, it's just give everything that you have. Around tell the truth, I would say I was in sales in my early 20s. I was selling suits, I was selling replacement windows, I was selling alarm systems for homes. I was like everything that you don't want to show up at your door, I was selling. I didn't sell encyclopedias, but pretty much everything else. And so what I found in that culture, in that hustle, sales, door-to-door, telemarketing kind of culture, was some of my employers encouraged me to be a liar. Now, they wouldn't say it so boldly as that, but as long as I got the sale, they didn't care. Vacuum cleaners, all sorts of stuff that you don't want to buy. And so I was probably several years into it. And I always struggled with that. There was a real tension in me. But there was a time when I was probably 26 or 27 where I had a real crisis of conscience. I could take you to the place where it happened. It was in a gymnasium, in a church service where the tension of it came to a head for me. And I purposed there in that moment that I would be a truth teller and that I wouldn't be a liar. And I think that there's only two types of people in the world: truth tellers and liars. And that's all there is. So I purposed to be a truth teller, and I really stuck to that and made it one of my foundational principles. And then the last part, finishing the job, I'm awful at it. I'm really bad. I've got great vision. I got good personality. I can connect with people, but actually doing the fine details of closing the circle of communication or finishing the task to its fullest completeness, which is so important if you're going to do a quality job. If you're going to do a quality job, you have to finish well. And so when we started the company, we put those three things on the wall: work hard, tell the truth, finish the job. Finish the job on the wall because I couldn't do it. And I knew I needed to hire people around me that had that skill set, that particularness about completing tasks that would make me a better business owner and a better business.
So that is your philosophy. So for people listening to the show, how do you make sure that you're hiring that? How are you making sure that you're sharing that philosophy with the people that you're hiring so that you are hiring correctly right off the bat?
Yeah, so one of the things that we do is we just have really open, transparent conversations in the hiring process. And when we're hiring for a manufacturing setting or even for an office setting, our process of intaking the order from a client is a little bit more, I don't want to say cumbersome, but more detailed, more involved than a lot of agencies. We want to sit and spend time with you and really understand your culture and understand what success looks like in your culture and give you an opportunity to give us all the ins and outs of what wins and losses look like in your organization. My salespeople do a really good job of that. And then it's passing that information to the recruiter who is working through the process of finding you the right talent and finding you the right person. It's more than just talent. You have to find the right cultural fit. You have to find the right character traits in the person. And so those are character traits of people. And you find the answers to that by good probing questions and good questions that display the behavior. Give me a time when. Help me understand how you overcame this. Tell me about a time in your workplace where this happened and how did you respond? And then not just listening to that, but asking follow-up questions to their story. So it really comes down to engaging the candidate in a very personal way that lets them tell you their story, where you really get to know the person that you're interviewing and not just the skill set that they bring to the table. And if they're a welder and they have a helmet, you shouldn't necessarily hire them. Okay. You need to make sure that they've got more skills than that. And that there's more to the person than just their skills. And so if you really want people that are going to last in your organization, you need to invest time and energy. And so we say a better takes time. It does. It's a longer hiring process, but you get a better outcome. And so if you want the same turnover and churn that you've had, then keep doing the same things you've done. And if you want a better outcome, then you need to be willing to take a little bit more time, pay a little bit more money, and invest a little bit more in the people in order to get a different outcome.
We talked about in the introduction that your company culture is built around those three I's: integrity, intensity, and intentionality. How do you identify these traits in potential hires for manufacturing positions?
I think it's very much the same process. It's about talking to people. It's about spending time with people. The three I's are a reiteration of the WTF. So the way I describe the three I's is if you think about the three I's, it's like a furnace and an HVAC system in your home. The fire or the heat box is represented by intensity. Everybody needs to bring a level of intensity to work every day. And they need to bring a fairly consistent level of intensity, but they need to bring intensity to work every day. You have to have fire to do, you got to move your arms, you got to do the work, you got to have that energy to move it forward. That's intensity. And intensity alone is okay, but it's not great. Intensity alone is like a forest fire that you see out in California or in British Columbia that runs rampant. And that's a real problem. And so you need to have around the fire, you need to have integrity that holds the intensity in place. Intensity run amok is a problem, but inside the firebox of integrity, you can really do something with that intensity, with that heat. And then intentionality is actually the piping that comes out of the furnace and distributes the heat to the right places at the right times in the right amounts. And so in some of that piping, there's a fan to help draw it through to a further part in the house or a further part in the building. But the piping is the intentionality. If you have I often say if you have intensity without intentionality, it's like having a balloon filled with air that you let go of. It just splitters all over it just flies all over the room. It doesn't really accomplish anything. But with a stopper in it, balloons bring us a lot of joy. And so the same with the HVAC system. It helps distribute the work to the right places. And integrity is the part that holds the heat in place and helps people not get burned.
So it seems like in all positions, sometimes because it's so hard to find people to begin with, basically you bring people in and if they can fog a mirror, they are hired. But it sounds like
That's
the
a massive
process that
problem.
you are that you're talking about takes a lot of time. So for the people listening to the show that are saying, I don't have that kind of time, I need people, how do you respond to that?
Then enjoy a crappy work culture.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to be. The reality is if you don't invest in people, you're not going to get the best out of them. And you're going to have a churn. You're going to have challenges. And it's actually a legitimate business decision to decide, I don't want the culture. I want the productivity today. And I'm willing to sacrifice that. But you have to admit that's the sacrifice you're making. And I'm okay with people that tell me that they've made that business decision. It's not a wrong business decision. It's just, but to pretend like it's not a business decision, that's where I really struggle.
Okay.
One of the things that happens is when they make the decision to have people quickly so that they can meet productivity goals, is we're so eager to grow our business exponentially, to scale. Like, how many of the reels that you watch or the YouTube shorts that you see talk about scaling business and trying to grow things quickly, when really what we should be doing is trying to build sustainable businesses that can survive recessions and difficult periods of time. But we have this very transactional mindset about the best businesses are ones that grow exponentially every year. And what I would say is that's not true. The best businesses are ones that span generations. The best businesses are ones that grow methodically and carefully and intentionally, that they actually apply intensity, integrity, and intentionality to how they grow the business, as opposed to try to get a moonshot every day. So from a business standpoint, I say this to people a lot. I have a mindset where I bunt every day. I never step up to the plate and look to swing for a home run. I don't want a home run. If I bunt and get to first and somebody fumbles it, I'll steal second. I'll try and steal third. I'm happy to be aggressive, but I don't want to do it in a way that is uncontrolled. And I really want to build a business that's organized and methodical and sustainable.
Now, as a staffing company, of course, when you're interviewing the to know them, but how do you do the opposite? How do you screen your clients so that you're making sure that the candidates that you're placing are going to companies that are following the 3 I's and the WTF?
Sure. And this is a difficult marketplace to do that in. Just frankly, the staffing industry is on a 3-year downward trend, and it's more difficult to make those decisions today. But I would say historically and even currently, we try really hard to partner with companies that value people. We try to work with companies that have, for their internal employees, that they have programs that reward them and honor them and respect them. We're looking for companies that are really living out all of those things. And so that again comes by spending time with them, by investing in the relationship, by having a more prolonged and extended onboarding of our clients. Some of our clients are like, take the order and cut the rate and get out of my hair. And I'm like, I'm sorry, that's not how we do business.
Yeah.
Like we're a small business. We're a family-owned business. I got 3 kids that work in my business. We got a bunch of recruiters that we're responsible for. We're trying to find the right companies to partner with. And in a lot of cases, for me personally, that works out into working with a family-owned, mid-sized enterprises as opposed to corporate Goliaths. If I have to fill out an RFP to supply you, I'm probably not going to supply.
Okay.
There are a few exceptions to that. We work with some Fortune 500 companies, but generally, if there's an RFP involved, I don't want it.
Okay. So what about with technology? With the rapid advancements in technology, how are you ensuring that your team and the teams that you want for your clients stay up to date and adaptable?
Sure. We're just in the process we've just installed a new staffing software this year that helps us improve the communication with both our clients and our candidates and helps us be on top of that. The key with technology is not removing people from the process, but improving the productivity of those people. And so I don't ever want to get to a spot where people are applying for work and the AI is making the determination of whether or not they're a suitable candidate. They're automatically being submitted to clients and presented to work. And there are systems out there that do that. And there's companies that are super proud of how they've implemented AI and their turn towards utilization of those tools. And AI has a place, don't get me wrong. But what it does is it's supposed to help you get better connected to the people you are going to connect with. And the reality is, in today's world, when you place an ad anywhere, one of 2 problems happens. You either get too many candidates and you can't get through them all, or you don't get enough candidates and you don't know why you're not fitting the algorithm and getting people to yourself. And that's where agencies come to play. Like, that's exactly the problem that I solve for people. And so what we do is we try to screen everyone well and not spend a lot of time on people that aren't qualified for the role. But the people that are qualified, we try to give them a better opportunity, a better interview experience. I want our welders and truck drivers and general laborers and forklift operators and office managers and receptionists to have the very same experience of being interviewed that I'm having with you today, where you listen to me, where you engage me in my topics of information or knowledge or understanding. And I want my recruiters to plumb the depths of the person. I want them to get to know them and to build a relationship with them, and then to move that relationship forward on behalf of the client. We really see ourselves as an agent between the client and the candidate, and we bring both parties together so that, excuse the pun, they're better together.
Okay. So beyond technical expertise, though, what soft skills do you find most valuable with a manufacturing workforce, and how are you assessing these skills during the hiring process?
Sure. So the soft skills that people need really all come down to emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is just the ability to be in relationship. Like, that's what emotional intelligence is, the ability to hear people and discard the things that are not helpful and focus on the things that are. And so it's an ability to not be offended, which in today's culture is lacking in everywhere. It's an ability to hear people out and not jump to conclusions about who they are or what they. We were just talking as a staff this morning about how people have a tendency to put people in boxes, to categorize people, to take me as a 50-something white guy and put me in a box. That guy's going to be opinionated about these things. His voter profile is going to be like this. Everybody wants to categorize you. And that's partly because that's what our computers do. Our computers are categorizing people. And we need to be careful that we utilize the skills and the knowledge that we have to ascertain about people, who they are and what they're like and how we can support them, but also not to leave them bound up by whatever box we put them in. And the only way to do that is to listen to them, to communicate with them, to understand them, and to try and stand in their shoes a little. When you're interviewing a new immigrant and they have linguistic challenges, you need to persist through that as best you can, but also acknowledge for them where that may create a hazard in the workplace, and also understand what type of overcomer you're dealing with, because they've just come to this country. They've left everything behind in some cases, and they've come here. And think about the type of person that chooses to move across the world. I'm not talking from state to state or province to province or a 10-hour drive or a 12-hour drive. I'm talking like 24-hour plane ride, like through multiple countries and multiple steps, and the discipline to overcome those obstacles and to try and find a new life for themselves in a new place. That person has some grit. That person has some stick-to-itiveness. That person has some real skills that can be helpful in a manufacturing environment. If you can work through the other challenges and help them improve their language skills, or wait for them to improve their language skills, you're going to find sometimes a really great worker, because they're really trying something that's outside the box. And so they don't always understand things culturally. You need to be a little bit more patient with them. You need to set boundaries, but you need to do it in a caring and compassionate way, and understand what you're getting on the other side is a really amazing, hardworking, grit overcomer type of individual. And I think that's huge value.
Yeah. So what are some of the trends that you see shaping the future of manufacturing, and how are you preparing your clients to navigate those changes?
What I would say is, like a lot of society today, the future is going to look like have and have. And there's going to be some companies that are booming and some companies that are struggling because they're not able to adapt to technology or new method in a timely fashion. And that's going to potentially create a greater divide in our manufacturing environments. And the downside of that is that the organizations that are best suited to the relational type engagement that I'm talking about are typically the smaller enterprises. And one of the things that's really happening is larger enterprises are waking up to this and trying to treat people better and less like a commodity. But the bigger the organization, the greater the fear that the employee is going to be treated like a commodity, or I can replace A with B and it's no real concern. And as line level managers and operations managers and general managers show a genuine compassion and care for people inside the larger corporate structure, those companies are going to be really successful.
Okay.
One of the things we talk about is old world values and modern technology. When you can bring the old world values of care and compassion for every human and the modern technology and services together, and you pair those two things, that's gold. And I think that'll always be a winning combination.
So when it comes to work-life balance, when we're looking at manufacturing, it's also demanding schedules, high pressure environments. So how do you promote work-life balance with your teams and with your clients?
I don't. So I don't actually believe in work-life balance in the way that it's typically talked about. I believe in balance. And there needs to be ebbs and flows. You need to understand that in a working environment, in a manufacturing environment, when you get a really large order, there's going to be overtime. You need to build that into your culture where people can accommodate overtime and that their life situation allows them to do that. And that's a much harder thing to do in today's economy where virtually every home is a double income home and you've got childcare you have to accommodate because you're working opposite shifts, or you have expectations, or everybody's kid is soon to be a pro athlete, and so you're running to sports practices 7 days a week, and like just the insanity of that lifestyle. And so what I would just say is look for balance, not work-life balance. When you try to get things, it's the same thing about people. You try and put everything in a box, you confine it and eventually suffocate it. But if you can find a greater balance where there's ebbs and flows and you roll with it, that's a better scenario, in my opinion. It's not a popular opinion. Let me just say that, but it is my opinion.
Okay. So as we get to the end of our time together, when it comes to hiring people that are going to stay for the long term in an organization, what's your number one tip for manufacturers to pay attention to?
Love. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to come up with one word for you. Is if you just love people, just genuinely, to me, love is you before me. It's try to serve the people that are working for you. And if you serve the people that are working for you, they'll take care of you. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely.
Is that too obscure?
No, not at all. All right. So if people did want to continue the conversation with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Yeah, the best way to engage with us in conversation is our website for our podcast, x2z.org. And there you'll find myself and my daughter. We have a podcast of our own where we talk about Gen X and Gen Z and how they can work together. And you can find out all about our organization there. There's a free gift there, a hiring guide. If you're looking for help on how to hire people, that free hiring guide is there. If you're an employee looking for work and you need help figuring out how to get that next job, there's a guide there for you to help find a job. Yeah, that would be the best spot.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Lisa, thank you for your time, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
I'm Lisa Ryan, and this is the Manufacturers Network Podcast. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Manufacturers Network Podcast. Do me a favor and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues so we can grow this network and connect more fantastic folks just like you. You can either send your buddies to the website at manufacturers-network.com or share the Manufacturers Network podcast on your LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or wherever you and your industry friends hang out. The bigger and faster we grow the network, the stronger and deeper the community we'll all have. Thanks again, and I appreciate you.